Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Musical Talk. Hello, Hannah.
Hello, Nick.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
I noticed you didn't introduce yourself there.
I'm Nick Hudson, in case you're new to the podcast. Hello, thank you for listening. Bit of a light-hearted discussion we're going to have because we were just discussing before we started, where can musicals go? In the many, many hundreds of years that we've been doing this podcast, I remember my dear friend Tim Sayward was saying that rap and hip-hop was the future of musicals. And in a way, he was right, because one of the biggest musicals of recent times has been Hamilton.
And I guess In the Heights as well.
Yeah. I think Hamilton's more...
Well, yeah, Hamilton's more, but... Looking down that vein of things, you've got those two from that one, your one composer.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lin-Manuel Miranda.
And Coco and all the others and things. Is he Coco? No, he's not.
No.
Canto.
Canto.
I get confused between the two of them. Another Moano as well, didn't he do?
Yes.
Yes. So we're just going to discuss... I'm always reminded of that line in Why Am I So Single? They will put any old shit on in the West End nowadays.
Yeah.
And... whether that was self-referential or not remains to be seen, but we're just kind of looking at what's coming up because we're nearing the end of 2024, going into 2025. A year ago, we were very excited about seeing The Witches at the National Theatre.
Gosh, I can't believe that was a year ago.
And
I loved that show.
We did love that show. Please bring it back, National. Stop messing around with Sondheim musicals and put The Witches back on.
Oh, bring back The Witches,
Give
please.
us what we want. So just looking at new stuff, because we don't really do seasons here like they do on Broadway. We just open shows whenever we want, really.
Do they do seasons?
Yeah, they have a season. Things come and things go. Usually at the Tony Awards, if a show isn't nominated for 12 Tony Awards, it will just close because they're afraid that no one's going to be able to go to it. Kind of exciting things this year, I think, that have taken the West End by storm. And... I want to say Starlight Express has been exciting. You're looking at me with
because
scorn.
I know that you are not Andrew Lloyd Webber's biggest fan.
I'm not Andrew Lloyd Webber's biggest fan, but I'm a big fan of immersive productions and technology, which was the reason I was so excited to see that show.
Okay.
And
did it live up to that?
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was very exciting. I didn't mind the music. I think he does.
In what respect was it immersive then? Did it smell of train oil?
No. Oh, well, this is the question. Is it what makes something immersive? Because Lloyd Webber's talked about now doing an immersive production of Phantom of the Opera.
This is the thing. And after what he did at Europa Park... is that...
What Europa Park did at Europa Park, yes. The kind of Phantom of the Opera roller coaster in VR. I'm not sure what he means by an immersive production of Phantom of the Opera, because you could argue that Phantom of the Opera is immersive anyway, because you are sitting in the theatre where it happens.
Because one could say, is Moulin Rouge immersive?
Could do. I mean, they'll chuck that word on anything nowadays.
But, yeah, at what point do we draw the line to say, okay, this is just a stage show?
Matilda's labelled as immersive because they walk down the aisle.
No, that's an old trick.
If it breaks the fourth wall, not breaks the fourth wall, but if
it does break the fourth wall.
It does, but if the cast come into the audience, Cats, by that argument, was immersive in 1980. Whatever.
I was going to say, no, I feel like with technology the way that it is today, it's got to have something more than just the cast walking down the aisle to make it immersive. So what did what Starlight Express do that made it immersive?
What did it do that made it immersive? I think it was the fact that they are racing all around you. That is their... Okay. That's what the show's famous for. And that hadn't been seen in the West End for a very long time, because that only really happened when it was at the Apollo Victoria, where Wicked is now playing. And then it went on tour, and you had kind of the weird Bill Kenwright production that had 3D screens that we would put on your 3D glasses and watch the race sequences, which doesn't sound appealing to me at all. But what was appealing was the whole wraparound aspect, and also it's the slightly minor things like just going back to The Witches, themed cocktails and themed food and themed drink.
So by that account, Why Am I So Single is immersive because it had drinks themed to it. When we saw Little Shop of Horrors, there was a themed drink. So by that account, then that's immersive. I don't think that kind of thing makes it immersive. I feel like there has to be more to it, because
the general rule for immersive theatre and immersive attractions is, does the audience have an impact in changing the story? And there's only one musical I can think of that does that, and it's called The Mystery of Edwin Drood, and it's a unfinished murder mystery written by Charles Dickens, and the composer, author of this musical, Rupert Holmes, great name for someone who's a murder mystery fan who also wrote the script for Curtains, made it that the audience voted as to whom they think done it.
Ooh, okay. I'm trying to think. Isn't there? Is it Showstopper, the improvised musical? So would that also be immersive, because the audience may dictate what happens?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we're veering away from the point of discussion,
but we've gone on a tangent.
Yeah.
Welcome to Musical Talk.
Welcome to Musical Talk, the world's first immersive podcast. Because I'm in your ears, listeners.
Can you make the audio, like, do the panning
I could do,
thing?
but I don't edit. Binaural, I believe, is the term.
There we go. Immersive.
Yeah. I mean, they're just... And another interesting trend we're noticing is and this blends over into the world of plays as well, is we're all used to films being turned into stage shows, countless versions of... musicals based on films. Devil Wears Prada, upcoming one, for example. Sadly not the book, but we'll talk about that at some point, I'm sure.
But the thing is, just going back to that, do you find now that once upon a time, things were being brought to the stage that were already based on a musical? Okay? You look at your Disney canon, for example. So they translate quite well. But there are certain materials that aren't necessarily going to translate as well as a musical. And yet it almost feels like, oh, let's try and get money out of this, try and bring it to the public consciousness again, I think, like Devil Wears Prada.
Or Back to the Future. I think if you label something a musical, people's expectations for it are that it's going to be a much better, more interesting evening than if it were just a play.
See, this is the thing, whereas I know that we don't talk about plays so much on this show because we are musical based. However, when we went to go and see Stranger Things, I was blown away.
Yeah. And what did I say about Cursed Child? They are musical productions.
They are musical level productions.
Without the songs.
And
even Stranger Things breaks into song at one point. Do you remember when the church, Dream a Little Dream of Me?
Yeah, I do. But yeah, I'm just looking at the list here of films.
Well, let me go back to my point about TV shows emerging onto stage show, because we have 40 Towers, Only Fools and Horses, the musical, still rambling on, and now Inside Number 9 on stage, and God knows what that will be.
Who knows?
So that's something we're seeing. And we've had kind of like Bad Girls, the musical, and they tried to do a musical of Coronation Street that never happened, and it's like, what next, Bill?
British Bake Off.
Yep, Great British Bake Off
was another one.
Great British Bake Off. That's easy for me to spray. What else? What TV shows could adapt into Grand Designs, perhaps?
What? They have a breakdown because they didn't get the windows in before COVID hit.
Grand Sings?
No.
I
mean, Kevin MacLeod just sounds like a character name anyway.
Yes.
But
there's an idea for you.
Deal or No Deal, the musical. The Weakest Link, the musical. Oh, here we go. I'm on one now.
Well, they did the play of The Weakest Link. They had Quiz, which was excellent. I'm all for musical of Tipping Point.
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah. Again, sorry, that was what Quiz was based on, not
I'm a Celebrity.
Not Weakest Link. So
there was the X Factor musical as well.
There was the X Factor musical, which is interesting because that was written by Steve Brown, who, by the time this episode goes out, Musical Talk will have been on Radio 4 Extra, because they're playing a clip of the interview that we did with Steve Brown back in 2022. So do head over to look for that show. It's presented by Harry Hill, and it's just really lovely to be asked to be part of that. So thank you, Hannah, for jogging my memory for that.
There we are.
I think what was exciting about Why Am I So Single is that there's so many jukebox musicals, and I've got nothing against jukebox musicals. We're going to see Mamma Mia soon, which I haven't seen for about 25 years, so I look forward to getting back to a theatre to see that production. I
love the show. It's so feel good.
Yeah. And Why Am I So Single was a musical that we were both excited to see because we knew nothing about it. And that's always a risk with doing any show that you have a preconceived notion of. Because you go, oh, how are they going to do the flying car? How are they going to do the chalkboard?
Yeah.
How are they going to do, whatever. Benjamin Button going to the Ambassadors Theatre.
This is a thing. Going back to my point before you veered on to TV shows.
Yeah.
It's what I was saying about films. Obviously, you've got your ones that are based on musicals that translate quite well because it's just putting it onto stage and it's just meeting the expectations of, oh, can we do this from the film but put it on stage? Whereas you look at some of these, is The Curious Case of Benjamin Button really musical worthy?
I think anything can be a musical if it's done well, and that's a difficult thing.
But then it makes you think, well, where are we headed next? Like, what is going to be musical-fied next? Do you know what I mean?
Who knows? It's all down to what audiences demand.
And then, do you feel... It's just a question I'm plucking out of thin air here.
She said plucking, listener.
Do you feel as though the quality of musicals is decreasing? The more that things are churned out and the quicker things seem to be churned out, do you feel that the quality that we receive... So recently, we went to see Hello, Dolly. Mm-hmm. And it was a show that neither of us knew anything about.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, scale-wise, it was bigger. It was at the Palladium. But take that from written however many years ago it was, the quality of everything that was given to us compared to Why Am I So Single? Do you know what I mean?
I don't want to use Why Am I So Single as an example because I want to use Back to the Future as an example.
Okay, fine, use Back to the Future.
Because...
I've just not seen that.
The Why Am I So Single is written by someone that can do lyrics. And this is my big bugbear, as many people know, listen to this podcast, all four of you.
Two of them are
I have... Speak for yourself. I have an issue with lyricists that... And I'm going to sound very snobbish here, and I do apologise, but...
Nick Hudson's being a snob, everybody. The sky is falling in.
As Thos once said on this podcast about lyrics, if you're going to do them properly.
Or properly.
Which means proper rhyming, proper scanning, and all that stuff. So Back to the Future doesn't have that. And what we are seeing is a lot of pop songwriters writing musicals. This isn't a new thing. I know that's
your big bugbear. Yeah. So Elton John
I'm more offended by pop songwriters doing lyrics than music. Okay. Because they're very rarely doing the music. They're just like... Cyndi Lauper did not sit down and write the music for Kinky Boots. Elton John did not sit down and write all the music for Billy Elliot or Devil Wears Prada. That's
Lion King?
That was done. They're all done by teams of people.
Okay.
Lyrics are very, very open and obvious to see when they're bad. Mm-hmm. Because cat and hats does not rhyme. And music is relative. A good tune can be someone else's bad tune. But a bad lyric is a bad lyric. And that is... So the quality of those has declined... Because people love seeing a show because it's written by, that's got lyrics by Cyndi Lauper. I like her songs. It must be good. I think the quality, and I hate to say this, of the audiences has declined. And I think we can look to, I don't want to say 9/11, but because that boomed a kind of musical comedy revival on Broadway. But it's a bit too close, but COVID, people are so... desperate for entertainment.
Okay.
We'll go back to Why Am I So Single. People will see any old shit nowadays. Yeah. And I hate to say it.
No, but they will.
Producers are seeing that, and they're putting, now that's what I call a musical on stage.
Yeah.
That would never have happened.
I was going to say 20
30,
years ago.
40 years
yeah.
ago. That's my lecture. Good night, everybody.
But no, I do find it interesting to see how it has changed. The evolution of the musical.
Or devolution.
Yeah, it just feels like they're being churned out now a lot more than... And it feels more... Musicals, I guess, they've always been for profit. But it feels like when you see a show that was written however long ago, it feels like it was a labour of love. Whereas now it just feels like it's churned out for financial gain.
Would they have, when Hello Dolly opened in the 60s or 70s, would they have had a tote bag with a line from a musical on it? The whole merch thing is interesting.
Yeah.
And the whole social media thing is interesting. What's my other bugbear nowadays?
Oh, the curtain.
Yeah. I'm glad that you know that.
Do you have it in the men's where you go into the loos and you have stuff printed on the mirrors so that it encourages you to take a selfie and post it on social media?
I'm not taking photographs in the male lavatory where many men are standing there with their schlongs out.
No, I just wanted above the sink.
But
I'm not talking about at the urinal.
But yes, they do. But if you're taking a photo, it's often reflecting what's in the room.
Okay, yeah.
There could be Andrew Lloyd Webber in there. We don't know.
I don't know the layout of the men's bathroom. Thank you very much.
But yes, they do all that. And that's... I think audiences' demands have changed because people just aren't interested in old-fashioned musicals anymore, because there's the bigger picture of, is it appropriate for today's audiences to see a woman that needs a man in order to function as a human being? You know, the whole romantic male, romantic female thing. That's why Am I So Single
I'm all
is
for
so
variety.
refreshing, I think.
I'm all for variety, and there's no denying that that's what we have at the moment. But what's that one that you looked up? Santa Needs a Wii.
And that's a Wii as in going to the toilet. He doesn't need a Nintendo-based computer game. Yeah, Santa Needs a Wii. And just looking at...
When it comes to a jukebox musical, and you look at the one, like you've got your Tina Turner, you've got the Cher Show.
Well,
where do you think they're headed?
They're not jukebox musicals.
Okay, the biopic musicals. Biocals. Blah, blah, blah. Where do you think they're headed?
The bin?
No, but who do you think is going to be the next? Like today, we hear the tragic news of the passing of Liam Payne.
Yeah.
Is that going to spawn?
The thing is that
a One Direction.
What was interesting musical with the biggest flop of a jukebox musical, based on one of the biggest bands of my childhood, was Viva Forever, the Spice Girls musical.
There was a Spice Girls musical?
Exactly. It lasted about a month in the West End. It was written. The book was by Jennifer Saunders.
Of course, I've heard of it.
And the thing is, the public can name 4 Spice Girls songs.
They're before my time.
Yeah. You can't fill a musical with 4 songs.
No.
The reason...
Right, the Girls Aloud musical needs to happen.
It might do.
Yes.
But... See, even I don't think they're iconic enough. I probably would see an S Club musical before that.
Oh, no. Steps musical.
Stepsicle.
Because you say about big flops of musicals. As a huge Billy Joel fan, how do you feel about one for him? Hasn't there already been one written?
Musical is a strong word for moving out, which is why it's so annoying, because it was a dance concept piece where the band was on a platform on stage and they just played Billy Joel songs. One person sung them, and it was like seeing a Billy Joel tribute act with interpretive dance.
Okay. Interesting.
And
I wonder why they went that route.
It played on Broadway and in London at the Apollo Victoria. It didn't do very well, funnily enough. Now, many, many times as I'm walking/running, mostly walking, I'm listening to Billy Joel songs and I think, yes, that's a musical, definitely. And
are we going to get the Nick Hudson written Billy Joel musical?
Possibly.
Yes.
But no, you're not, because Billy Joel did win a Tony Award for orchestrations, which is lovely. And he's been interviewed before saying, why don't you write a musical? Because his stuff is so theatrical, and he grew up listening to Broadway songs, and he actually influenced a lot of today's Broadway songwriters. Like, there's a lot of Billy Joel in Alan Menken, there's a lot of Billy Joel in Stephen Schwartz, there's a lot of Billy Joel in Jason Robert Brown and stuff like that. He says, I don't like the time it takes.
Do it for him then.
No, but I mean, writing a new songs for a musical. That. He wouldn't like, he said, I don't like, and it proves that he knows what he's talking about. He said, I wouldn't like the rehearsals where you go in, you change a song, got to go home, rewrite it, present it, rehearse it, rewrite it. He just wouldn't, he likes to write a song, record it, and have it be done. He wouldn't like the kind of...
Well, why can't you just take existing material?
I think because he has the skills to be able to write a proper musical, but he just doesn't need to. He doesn't want to.
Do that route of just take his greatest hits, create a story around them, and ta-da.
If only were that easy.
I'm sorry, I've just noticed that there's a Peppa Pig on stage. Yes, we're going.
Yes, at the Theatre Hall Haymarket. It might be a musical. And there's another Dolly Parton musical.
There is.
But not an original one. So she wrote 9 to 5. She wrote the songs for she and many others wrote the songs for 9 to 5.
But that's what the point that I was driving at is, who do we think out of today's stars are going to be the ones that next on the musical?
So a name that pops up a lot in the world of musical from pop star to musical theatre writer via do you write books? Does Tom Fletcher write books? Yeah. Is Tom Fletcher, and he
so do you think he's going to be next to get the treatment?
He there's probably a hit in
there somewhere.
Hit in him somewhere.
No, I'm not talking about like the actual stars writing their own, but like people writing biopics. So, i.e. Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I think there is a Taylor Swift musical bound to happen, because she is a true mastermind of that.
Okay, I have one.
I'm not doing a Miley Cyrus musical.
Oh, we need a Miley Cyrus musical. She's had so many.
Now, could they take one of her? Could they take the Hannah Montana?
Well, ask Disney
thing and do that on stage.
Ask Disney.
This is the thing.
The problem is, and much like Devil Wears Prada, so many Hannah Montana is synonymous with Miley Cyrus, and it's really hard.
Who would play her?
Yeah, exactly. It's like saying, well, Devil Wears Prada. Everybody thinks of Meryl Streep, and if you go and see the show and you're let down, and I think that's the downside to these biopic musicals as well, is you go into them, and if your performer that's playing Cher isn't good, and it's just a bad imitation, or the same with Tina Turner. If they're not cast right, then you're going to feel let down and slightly frustrated.
But I think more often than not, they are cast right.
Oh, 100%.
Because they know it's so important, and I've never been disappointed with the cast in anything, really. What was the Cher show like? Because I'm sure there's a whole episode we could do about that at some point. But share your brief thoughts.
Now, for me, I feel it was a little bit of a letdown for the pure fact that I had seen Cher live before I had seen the musical. So part of me was like, oh, it does just feel like a weird tribute show. Because the only thing I had to kind of compare in my mind was the performance that she gave as herself live. And I just felt like, okay. But actually, when it comes to detailing the story and everything, the selection of songs that they chose, I thought it was really good. And I loved the fact that they put a whole Bob Mackie number in there as well that was an original song. So, yeah, I loved the show overall. I wish it would come back and kind of do a bit more, I think.
Do you wish you could have seen it on Broadway, where it was the big show and not the touring?
Yeah,
UK?
I do, because there was a lot that was cut out. I know somebody that had seen it on Broadway, and then watch the touring production. And they said a lot had been cut. So I wish I had been able to see it. Or in Chicago, where it was done originally. So, yeah, I do wish I could have seen it.
Chicago,
I know. Now there's a musical.
And all that hair.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I mean, not really sure on why we're having this discussion, but I
just think it's interesting to look at...
It's like a State of the Union address, isn't it?
It is a bit. Where are musicals headed? Everybody leave your comments.
And do you think, people have been saying that the art form is dead ever since, people were wearing short trousers and people just won't go and see shows because it's too expensive.
That is something I have a massive bugbear about. I hate the fact that theatre is becoming so elitist again. I'm of the opinion where...
So was there a time when it wasn't elitist? Because you said again. So was there a time when it was and then wasn't?
Yeah, so...
Was it just because you live in London now that you're seeing...
No. So when I lived in Devon... Theatre was really hard to get to see, especially in the West End, because of how expensive A, a ticket was, and B, everything else that surrounds it. But then I found that everybody kind of kicked up in arms a few years ago, and ticket prices came down because theatre needed to become for the masses. And you remember when, Matilda were doing decent price seats at certain times of the week and
Frozen
and I remember being able to walk up to a theatre on the day and saying, what tickets have you got, what deal can you do me, and somebody getting a ticket for 15 quid for Sweeney Todd. And I feel like those days are gone because everything is about making every penny back that we can to help support the industry. Now, I appreciate that it's also a catch-22 situation, because if you want a high quality good performance put on, it's not cheap to put on and you have to make your money back. How are you going to make your money back? Ticket sales. However, for the price of a family of 4 to come and see a show on the West End, it's astronomical. You think about when Frozen announced it was closing and upped their prices. For some little family that wants to go and see Frozen before it closes, they're almost priced out because the ticket prices were horrific, and especially
it still didn't sell out on the final performance.
Well, there we go. And I just think surely they would have been better keeping the seats cheaper, selling out the show, and being able to give it to more people to be able to see.
I don't know. That'll be down to some bigwig at Disney saying no.
I remember when I knew a family that were taking their daughter to go and see Frozen from Devon, and they came and saw Frozen. And I just think, at the time, I remember thinking, that must have cost you a fortune. Not just in the show tickets, but the travel, the hotel, everything else around it suddenly equates to the price of a small holiday or a holiday somewhere. And I just think, theatre once again, I think, even more so now, because you look at the price of Stranger Things, you look at the price of Mamma Mia, especially once they did that TV show where, now come and see the cast featuring the people from the TV show. They stopped doing rush seats. You can't... When Hamilton first came out and tickets were so expensive, and Cursed Child, the tickets were so expensive.
Cabaret as well.
Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
They're astronomical prices, and your average person, especially now, are we still in a cost of living crisis? I'd say we are. The prices are going up.
I always say in times like this, at least we're not Broadway. Where it is, my friend John was talking about Sunset Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a saying that a Londoner never pays full price for any show, which I still think has some truth about it, because there will always be some kind of a deal. Kind of way of doing it, whether you know someone or you can get a seat on the day. The app, Today Tits, other apps are available, comes in handy. But no way was Sunset Boulevard here charging $600, $700 a seat. And it's because shows on Broadway are triple the cost they are to put on here, so they have to up the prices. But my point is, people are still going. And it's just...
But then could you argue that the average wage over there is higher?
Yes, the average wage over there is higher. which is a good point. And also $600 is not £600.
No.
But it's still
three figures.
Yeah.
To see a show. I'm just of the belief that I feel theatre should be for the masses. And I think theatre gives so much education as well, and so many incredible opportunities for development, especially in children. And it can inspire so many people in so many ways. And by making the ticket prices so high that it shuts off a huge portion of people, it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Like, as a kid, some of my best memories are going to the theatre with my family at Christmas.
I think we need to separate big, shiny, massive West End shows.
Yeah, true.
From other shows available in the country, because
that's very true. You look at your local Amdram piece.
Exactly. Or you look at...
But why should big, shiny shows only be for exclusive people? Everybody should have access to the big, shiny shows too.
Everyone does have access to them.
No, they don't if they can't afford to go.
But to be a big, shiny show, it has to deliver big, shiny things, whether that's massive scenery pieces.
And I get it, it all costs money. It's such a catch-22 and in a big circle. I appreciate that and I get it. But how were they able to do it before and have ticket prices so cheap?
I think you need to go to pre-COVID times and look at that as an example. I remember when COVID came and I said, I'm not worried about getting ill. I'm worried about the huge cultural impact this will have for the rest of our lives. And this is
one of the impacts of it. I just think it's sad that...
I also think it's interesting, another trend I'm noticing.
That was my rant. I'll be over with it now.
And Mary Poppins is a good example of this. Mary Poppins opened 25 years ago at the Prince Edward Theatre, with the most amazing set. The house did everything apart from take a bow, I seem to remember one review said. It was huge. And then when it came back to the Prince Edward, it was a really small version of that show. But yet it was in the same theatre by the same creative team. And Cameron... We're seeing a lot of touring shows plonked in the West End where they don't seem...
to fit necessarily.
Like Sister Act, for example.
I thought that worked quite well.
It did, but it wasn't the Palladium production that I saw. Like, I think prices are going up, but yet we're not getting
the big shiny...
as big and shiny as things were, ironically, when technology wasn't as good. And having a screen on the back of your stage is not a set.
No, it's not. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, but that's a touring show.
I don't care.
Okay, she doesn't care.
I don't care. Just having a screen and an LED floor as your big imagination. Nah.
So that's one thing I've noticed is that the shows that were once amazing, Miss Saigon is another example of this.
Oh, the helicopter.
But the helicopter and the rest of the show when it was at the Drury Lane was massive. And then it moved to the Prince Edward Theatre and it was a touring show.
That was where I saw it,
Cameron just put on there and then charged full West End prices because it's not in Plymouth. Yeah.
But this is the thing now I'm noticing with touring shows, because things like Hamilton now are going on tour and, when Phantom goes on tour and stuff, those ticket prices are still astronomical because it's like this big shiny West End show is now going on tour. So we're going to make sure that you pay the big shiny West End price, even though we're going to scale back the production.
Yeah. Well, even for
you're not going to get as good a quality.
Phantom in the West End is scaled down now.
Can't comment
Les
because
Mis is scaled down.
It.
And they're not cheap.
No, tell me about it.
£190 a ticket. Ridiculous.
It is. Especially for two people to go. The best part, 500 quid.
Well, 380 quid.
Yeah, but by the time that you've bought a drink in there, taking out a mortgage for that.
£8,000.
Yeah, exactly.
themed Les Mis cocktail. What could they have?
Do they do? Here we go.
Give you 5 minutes to think of that.
Okay, well, you have to kind of have like the Master of the House cocktail, right?
Yeah, but what would you call it?
Master of the House.
That's not a drink-based pun.
Okay.
I don't know my drink, so that's a problem.
Do you hear the people gin?
I was just thinking that. This is exciting for you, isn't it, listeners?
Oh, I bet there are people at home that are shouting Les Mis themed cocktails at us. Oh, I can hear you.
Saying, but yeah, I don't know my drinks that well to be able to answer. One knows gin.
Cosmopolitan.
There you go. Cosmopolitan.
Yeah. Kind of work.
Oh, Cosmopolitan.
There you
go. I think you win that round.
Yes. I'm not paying though.
Next round's on you. Yeah, so that's our State of the Union. We're
that's our address.
Yes.
Dealt with.
So, but what I love about this podcast is that, you know, for the past 15 years, we've however many years we've been doing this show, we've charted the West End history, and we shall carry on doing so. I
am excited. I'm not saying that we're doing this to bash productions that are coming out now. I'm looking forward to productions.
There'll always be an audience for every kind of show.
Exactly. And I feel now we are living in an age where so many different areas and parts of humanity are being represented through musicals. And I love that. I love the variety, and I love to see what's available for everyone.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Nick. I'm also looking forward to seeing Oliver, which has just come up on the screen there.
Yes.
Woo-hoo.
I'd do anything. Thank you.
For you, do anything.
For listening to this week's episode. And we'll speak to you soon.
Bye. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Musical Talk. To find out more about the world of Musical Talk, you can visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk, where you'll find all our episodes, or you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Musical Talk.